Hey, Star Nation, this is Randall Camrad, and you are listening to Star FM. It's all for you. Basta Radio Bambo.
Exclusive on Star FM. Please welcome Randall Cameron. Hello, Sir Randall. This is DJ Gabby. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, DJ Gabby.
Yes, of course. We're very happy to have you on the show, and I'm pleased to meet
Happy to
you.
be here.
Yes, and welcome back to the Philippines, even virtually.
Well, thank
uh,
you.
yeah, I believe the last time you went here was before the pandemic. Is that right?
It was just as the pandemic was starting, so they were people like hotels and stuff were starting to use the thermometers, um, and really at that point we had no idea how big it was going to get. So it was really interesting. It was, you know, just before there were the lockdowns and everything started.
Okay. Well, I hope that you stay safe in LA, and of course, I hope that you'd come back to the Philippines once this pandemic is over. By the way, sir, how are you doing in Los Angeles right now?
I'm doing pretty good. Um, over here, we're still wearing masks a lot of the time, although th certain restrictions are starting to relax, especially as vaccinations sort of start to happen. I, uh, I, for a day job, I work at a school teaching film, and we're now back in person in classes. So, it's there's progress. It's progress. It's still different though. Still a lot of things very different.
Okay. Well, we're good to. We're happy to know that you're okay, and of course, we're hoping that everything goes well. But we're also glad that even during this pandemic, you were still able to do things like the one that we're going to be talking about later. Of course, the monsters without, and of course, other projects. But of course, we'd like to congratulate you on that. By the way,
Thank
your
you.
film had its world premiere at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, and I know another short film of yours was also a selection at the Film Fest.
Hmm.
This just happened October 1st. That was very recent, last week. We are so happy for you. But before we talk about that, Sir Randall, we would like to get to know you first, and of course, we would like to know more about your Filipino heritage. Can you tell us more about that? Like, what is your Filipino story? Were you born in the Philippines or in America?
So I was born in San Diego in California, and I took my first trip to the Philippines when I was fairly young. I forget exactly when, maybe when I was in fifth or sixth grade or something, around when I was 10 years old or so. And it's sort of taken a long time for me to fully sort of come into my own as a Filipino American. At first, I had spent all my time in the United States and very little in the Philippines. But it's sort of after I became an adult and once I graduated school that I started to travel a little bit more often to the Philippines and sort of live there for longer periods of time. And yeah, that's when I started to sort of really connect to my heritage over there and over here in Philippines. And I made my film Far Away in the Philippines, my previous film, and like that was just a really extraordinary experience that sort of helped to really connect me to the place. And I met my wife there in the Philippines, and I've been going back ever since pretty often.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing about that.
I think kindergarten, I was already like I was a very big fan of like Godzilla movies and sort of Frankenstein movies and various things like that. And I remember that I asked my father when I was a kid, I asked like, so who is it that makes these movies? And he said, oh, it's the director that makes the movies. And so in kindergarten, when the teacher asked everyone like, hey, what do you kids want to be? Some kids would say policeman, some would say fireman, but I already had said I want to be a director. And so that's been my answer since, basically as far as I can remember. And yeah, I've sort of followed that trail for a long, long time. And yeah, it's led me here basically.
Okay. And then what was like your first project, or was it like far away, the one you were talking about a while ago?
So of course, I've had lots of little projects. I would make short films and even feature-length films in a way in high school with my friends, just sort of goofing around after school. So just constantly learning the craft and everything. But I wouldn't say I made anything that really counted as a first professional project until, yeah, I made Far Away in the Philippines, and that's an adventure story that takes place, yeah, like all on location in the Philippines, and I traveled there to make the movie. I went out 3 months before we actually started filming just to sort of explore and look for locations and all these things. And that film really is centered around my childhood memories of the jeepney, which I remember thinking was when I was a kid, I just thought, oh, the jeepney, it's like the coolest thing in the world. The just the way it looks, the way everyone is seated inside, the it's a very romantic thing, I think. And I built that movie around the idea of this team of people who have to um, ride a jeepney to basically find treasure, and to they go on an adventure all within a jeepney. And yeah, that's really my first project that came out sort of the way I wanted it and is considered sort of professional.
Yeah, and I know it also won an award at the Indie Fest USA. So this is
Yeah.
huge. Okay. So thank you for sharing about that film, which is Far Away, and of course your love for filmmaking. And now, for The Monsters Without, it finally had its world premiere last week, and congratulations. Can you tell us about the making of the film and the inspiration behind that?
So yeah, The Monsters Without, yeah, it's also an adventure story, and it's also in the same area, but it centers around sort of the mythology of creatures and from the Philippines. So I was living in Biliran uh, for an extended amount of time. I was there maybe 5 months, I think, um, after making Faraway, and I was living with my then girlfriend, now wife and producer, Maria Luna Camrad, and the hurricane hit, Haiyan. The hurricane hit, and it knocked everything down, and it caused us to no longer have electricity, and we weren't able to travel in the area, and all these things. So like we would spend all our nights sort of by candlelight, and it was very sort of scary sometimes, not having electricity, not having those comforts. And uh I started to hear the stories from Malu and from her family about the aswang and about the capre and these creatures, and I grew fascinated with them, and I really thought like, hey, this sounds like an amazing movie because like these are creatures that, like to Philippines, of course, they're very interesting, but I think to internationally, they are really interesting, strange, and terrifying ideas, and so I wanted to base a movie off of that. Um, and then sort of the next step was that I met our special effects makeup supervisor, Jacqueline Holden, who is also Filipino American. And she demonstrated for me, she showed me some creatures that she had designed, that she had made. And I realized, like, wow, we can really, like, with her help, we can really create some of these monsters and make something really special. So that's sort of the origin of the film.
Okay. And when was I believe when was this? I mean, when was the film finished? I think it wasn't just this year, right?
So the film actually shot in 2017. It was
Okay.
quite some time ago, and uh, the post-production process took a long, long time because not only are there creatures that were done entirely through makeup and through on-set effects, but there's a lot of visual effects as well. There's a lot of computer-generated elements. For the Aswang, of course, it requires green screening for the legs because they shouldn't be there when she flies, and then adding wings and all these things. And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There was a lot of work that had to go into it to make it up to standards for a professional production. And that all took place in the intervening years between 2017 and now. It's just been constant work on the visual effects and the sound design and all these things. we're making a really large scale project on sort of a smaller scale independent budget, and it sort of takes time to fit all that stuff in. But we're happy to say that we got there. It took some time, but we got there.
Yeah, and everything was shot in the Philippines. Is that right?
I would say 98% of it. Some special effects things were done later on in the US, just the tiniest things. But yeah, almost everything is all shot in the Philippines.
Okay. So, as you mentioned a while ago, it was like somehow related or inspired, or you got inspiration from maybe Filipino mythology, and of course,
Mhm,
with what happened with Typhoon Haiyan or Typhoon Yolanda here in the Philippines.
mhm.
So, yeah. Okay. So, how does it feel now that finally, after years of waiting and making the film, your film has now been seen and watched by many people, especially just this October 1st at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Fest.
Well, of course, it feels amazing. Filmmaking is, especially in sort of the independent world of filmmaking, it's really a waiting game. It's about biding your time and waiting for your opportunity to finally strike. And the advantage we have being an independent filmmakers is we can do what we want. We have total freedom. There's no one sort of mandating that we do certain things. It's it's very artistically free. The downside is that you don't have certain commercial things already in place, such as a release. So we had to find the right festival that really fit for us, and we found that in the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, and it was just the perfect venue to debut the film. I mean, a bunch of other movies, great Filipino American films have debuted there, like I think Yellow Rose debuted there, and Empty by Design, and a couple of other ones. And so this was a great place for us to start our journey.
Yeah, and of course, congratulations. This is huge. I mean, it had its world premiere at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. And are you planning to release it here in the Philippines as well, or will it be available in the country soon?
Oh, yes, is of course we very, very much want to give the film a proper homecoming to the Philippines. Definitely, we're in our film festival phase at the moment, so we're looking for follow-up festivals here in the United States and then also in the Philippines. But we are eager to open it in cinemas for those festivals. So, we're kind of hoping and waiting for what happens with the pandemic, um, especially for film festivals to come back to their full capacity and everything. But Philippines is definitely, that's probably the most exciting place that we want to bring it to, is to finally bring it there, especially for all the people who worked on the film and believed in the film. We're very eager to bring it back there.
Well, it's going to be exciting, and we're going to be looking forward to that. And we are hoping to watch that film, your film here in the Philippines. Now, what about your other what about for your other short film, No Dogs? Can you tell us a bit about that too?
Yeah, so No Dogs is a short film, and it's about a sort of story that involves the 1930s Watsonville riots in Northern California, where white laborers and Filipino immigrant laborers sort of clashed over a variety of issues. The white vigilantes were angry essentially about Filipino laborers just wanting to live their lives. The Filipino laborers had come to California um, to try and make a better living and to support their families and all of these things. But so the people who were already there, the white laborers gave them a hard time, and eventually it turned into violence. And eventually things like the dance halls that Filipino men would frequent were attacked and in some cases burned down. Our story takes place entirely in a diner during this volatile era, and a young woman, a young Filipino woman, is on the run. We don't know exactly what, but we get some clues as to what she's running from. She goes to hide inside of a diner. it's late at night, and this is the only place she can manage to find. And the white proprietor of the diner is willing to host her there for in exchange for some alcohol. And they're stuck in this diner, and they start to talk and they start to have some conversations, and we explore some of the history there, and some secrets get revealed, and it gets pretty intense.
Uh-huh. Okay, so both of those films, No Dogs and The Monsters Without, they were both selections for this year's film
Mhm.
fest.
They were both selections, and it's their premiere for both of them.
Wow. Okay. So congratulations, sir. That's
Thank you.
huge. Two films in one film festival.
Mhm.
So we're gonna be looking forward again to watch that here in the Philippines. Okay. Now, in your career, sir, as a Filipino American director, what are you most looking forward to accomplish? Like, what is your ultimate goal?
Well, there's all sorts of career milestones that directors hope for, but there's the sort of bigger hope for anyone, sort of any artist or filmmaker of color, is to gain better exposure for their culture, to more to further normalize Filipino film, um, and Filipino American storytelling, and to bring more of my own and my culture's voice into the cinema. There's a great history of Filipino filmmakers like Lino Brocka and Eddie Romero, and all these guys. And Filipino American filmmakers sort of want to be able to exist as well in that sort of space, and to create great works that can be remembered and speak towards the culture. So that's sort of the goal. And it takes a lifetime of work and a lifetime of creating films before you get to that point where you're making movies that stand the test of time and are meaningful to everyone. But that's the goal. That's the hope for any artist.
Yeah, and we can really see that. Of course, with hard work, with patience, it's gonna happen. And of course, we're just so happy that we can see our kababayans, who are in America and somehow sharing our culture, sharing our talent to the international scene. Okay, now from all your experiences in the film industry in the U.S., what is like the biggest lesson that you've learned that you also wish to share to other aspiring filmmakers, especially for Filipinos and Asians?
Well, I'd say the big lesson, um, I guess the two big lessons are patience, patience, perseverance, and just not giving up. Uh, that's the one thing that'll sort of give you an edge over other people who are doing the same thing, who could uh, uh, give up before you. You want to be the one who just keeps going and keeps going, because that's what's going to get you the opportunities. Um, you'll run into a million setbacks. I know we did with Monsters Without, and it's been a long time. It's been 4 years since we filmed it. It's really been 7 years since we sort of conceived of the film, and it's always just about being consistent and showing up. And maybe there'll be a roadblock in the way, maybe something's going to go wrong, but if you just work around it, find a solution, and keep going, eventually the project will get made. And that's just the nature of films. Movies don't want to get made, and so you need to really pull it along to make it happen. And I guess the other big lesson is to really be self-reliant and feel like you can do it. You can do it yourself, because the visual effects that I talked about that spent 4 years to do, I did most of those myself. I did a lot of the special effects and the editing, because it eventually turned into, hey, we don't really have the budget at this point to do effects of that quality, of that scale. How are we going to do it? Well, what I wound up doing is basically learning to do it myself. And that's something that people the world over, in America and the Philippines, anywhere, could do. I'm sure that there's a generation of filmmakers right behind mine who are all going to be extremely skilled at visual effects, because there's free software online that all it takes is an investment in yourself and an investment in time to learn and to get really good at. So, I mean, that's my two pieces of advice: is, be patient and be self-reliant.
Okay. Thank you so much for that very inspiring lesson that you've learned, and I'm sure. a lot of our listeners right now have been inspired by, of course, for your story, the things that you've learned, and I wish they could also use that to to achieve their dreams, of course, especially with filmmaking, because there are so many other talented Filipino filmmakers which also wish to do what you do. And of course, yeah, we're very happy for you. Now, I want to ask, do you have like maybe a dream collaboration with an actor? Do you have someone in mind, or yeah, can you tell us if you have like a dream actor that you would like to work in your next film?
Well, I mean, I suppose, in America, I guess an actor who I would really like to work with someday is Nicolas Cage, who I believe makes very daring, interesting choices, and I think he can do anything. And I think he's willing to trust material, no matter how sort of bizarre it is or how interesting. He's right there for it. We're hoping to follow up the short film of No Dogs with sort of an expanded project, either a feature film or possibly even a mini series, something that goes further and deeper into that story and into that history. I think that it's really untouched history in terms of film and television. It's something that hasn't been used at all and can very likely be made extremely exciting, extremely interesting, and socially politically relevant and thrilling. It's got everything, and so I hope to be able to work on that at some point. And then I have some other projects, some scripts that I would really love to shoot in the Philippines, um you know soon.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing it to us, all your, of course, your projects, and of course, what's to come. And we are going to be looking forward to your other projects. And as you mentioned, you would love to shoot here in the Philippines very soon, probably after this pandemic is over. Okay,
I
yeah.
think that's it.
We are hoping for that. Okay, now, finally, Sir Randall, what is your message to your kababayans and any shout out and invite?
Oh, uh-oh. I hadn't well, I mean, my message is really the same message that I said earlier about just persevere and believe in yourself. I would also say if there's if filmmakers out there listening, the specific software I'm imploring you to go get is Blender. Use that software, and you can learn everything, and it's free, and you will be a mighty filmmaker someday, I think. Um, I want to give a shout out to um, Jan Domino and Al Gordonis, my sound designers. Hope maybe you guys might be out there listening. Who knows? And then, of course, big thank you to my wife and producer, Maria Luna Camrad.
Okay. Well, thank you for that message, Sir Randall. All right. With that, thank you so much, Sir Randall. We are so happy to have you on the show. And of course, thank you so much for sharing your story to your kababayans here in the Philippines.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Of course, sir. Now, Star Nation, now a Star FM exclusive with Filipino American writer and director Randall Cameron. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. That's 89.5 Star FM Baguio Dash Philippines. You can also follow us on Twitter at Star FM Baguio. Once again, my name is Star DJ Gabby, and this is Star FM exclusive. Take care.